Welcome to Let's Cook Together. I'm registered dietitian Jennifer Stockler.
I'm Chef James Kuhn.
And I'm Josh Warner.
For this episode, we are cooking with different types of fish today and really learning how to cook with them. And today we are going to bring you a salmon dish and a grouper dish. So we got the salmon dish ready to go here. So let's dig into this and figure out how we're going to cook this salmon.
Okay, great. So this is a whole side of fresh Atlantic salmon. It's completely boneless. You can buy these in Walmart has them, Kroger has them. You can buy them pretty much anywhere or fish market. If you have a local fish market, you can buy them. You can ask the butcher to cut portions for you if you'd like. The right size is about 4 to 5 ounces per person. Is the best way to figure it when you're having a cooking for your family or if you're having friends over. About 5 ounces per person is right on. So we're just going to show you how to do this if you decide to get this whole piece of salmon here, and it still has the skin on the bottom. So for this application, we're going to take that skin off. Okay. So what we do is we always start at the tail end, and then we just want to go in with the knife. And then what we do is basically hold the knife steady, and then we pull the skin, leaving the knife steady, and just pull the skin, and it comes all off in one nice big chunk. Just like that.
Oh, that's a nice little trick to have, especially for this one where you don't have to worry about serving that skin, somebody eating it, forgetting it's on the bottom. Right. So that's a neat little trick there. Now, I know if you're like grilling or something like that, you would want to leave that skin on. Right. But for this particular recipe, yes, taking that off.
Right, exactly. So for this particular recipe, we're just going to go ahead and cut a nice couple of pieces right out of the center. So these are right around 5 ounces a piece that we're going to cut here.
One thing I like about salmon is from a nutrition standpoint, it's a fattier type fish. So you're having those omega-3 fatty acids that you often hear of. They're so great for heart health and inflammation. Size, you mentioned 5 ounces, typically 3 to 4 ounces for women, 5 to 6 ounces for men, somewhere in there. So getting that 5 ounces is right in between both of them, but you can adjust a little bit on that size a little bit.
Right. So we're just going to take these and just do a little kosher salt, a little sprinkle on top. We're just calling it a pinch. So it's up to you if you, a little less or a little more. It's up to you. A little bit of cracked black pepper here. Again, just a pinch. And then I usually just like to pat that down so that it sort of emulsifies right into the salmon. So we have a Dutch oven here. It's nice and hot. It's preheated. So we're just going to start with just like a tablespoon of olive oil. You don't want too much. You don't want to fry this. You just want to sear it and saute it. Okay. So then we'll just take these and get them right in. Nice hot pan. And we always want to cook them with the skin side up first, because when you turn it over, that way you don't have to keep turning the fish back over and again. It's already ready to serve, skin side down. Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have problems cooking fish because they aren't sure how to cook it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so they keep flipping it and they keep turning it, and it just starts breaking it apart and it's flaking apart.
Yeah.
So the presentation never looks fantastic. So it's like steak. You want to touch it as few times as possible.
Exactly.
And that's where I think a lot of individuals are like, I get fish out, it tastes great. I cook it at home and it's not turning out the same way.
Yeah.
So hopefully through this episode, you're going to find that this is easy to cook at home and not to be afraid to do that.
Right. So we're just going to give this 2 minutes in here just to get it a nice sear. It'll get a nice golden brown color. If you like it a little more brown, you can sear it a little longer. So that's really up to you. So that's really a good for what I think is right there. That's just a nice light golden brown color. Beautiful. So from this point in, we're going to go ahead right on in now with our asparagus. So we're doing about these are medium-sized asparagus. So we're doing about 8 or 9 pieces, 10 pieces per person. Okay.
Yep.
And we're just going to go ahead and put them right in next to the fish.
Oh, nice. Cooking it all together.
All together. This is like basically a one dish meal. All right. So on top of that, then we're going to go with some fresh shallots. That's about a teaspoon of fresh chopped shallots right there. About a tablespoon of fresh cold butter. This is about 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley. We're going to put that right in here. All these ingredients we're putting in here, basically it's going to make a sauce inside the salmon
Right.
while it
I like
cooks.
that.
Right.
And it cooks the asparagus all at the same time. And then we're going to throw it in the oven and finish it off, and it'll be perfect. It'll be done. 2 tablespoons of chopped capers. And then we're going to do about a 1/4 cup of dry white wine.
I say that's a pretty basic fish sauce I
Yeah.
commonly see
Right.
with
It's very
different types.
traditional.
Yep.
And then we're just going to squeeze a lemon. And then I can tell you what I like to do is I just put the lemon right in there. That way it can just sort of keep giving its flavor throughout the entire cooking process.
Oh, I like that too, and I love the color of this.
And you
'cause
can just take it out at the end.
yeah, because then you got an awesome color with a little
Right.
bit of that yellow in there. It really makes
Yes.
it pop. The
Yep.
green, and then the pink of the salmon. Very, very pretty.
Right, so at this point then we just turn off the stove and this goes right into a hot oven at 400 degrees.
400 degrees.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. So that's going to be in there for about 7 to 10 minutes. And then when it comes out, we can plate that and show you the presentation. And everything is there. The sauce is already made and it's ready to go. Okay, so we're back. We have this, the salmon just has come out of the oven just now. And so we're ready to plate. This is a really quick meal. You can cook this meal if you have all the preparations done and your veggies cut and all those things. You can cook this meal in about 15 minutes maximum.
Oh, so anything less than 30 minutes. That's wonderful for a busy
Yeah.
family who are working and want something healthy and quick.
So I like to do is plate the asparagus first. And you have some really nice color there. And then we're just going to put the fish right on top. And we'll get the spatula to get them out because the fish is very tender now at this point. So we can just lay the fish across this way.
So, Chef, how do you know when salmon's done? Because that's another question that we
Right.
often get asked is what to look for? How do we know? So what are some indicators?
Okay, well, first of all, the two best ways to check fish is one, if you're a little more experienced and you cook fish all the time, you know that if you kind of just press on it and you can just feel it start to crack, and you know it's done.
Okay.
Fish is one of those things where, you know, you can eat it a little less done or you can, you know, make sure that you cook it well done. But if fish gets so dry, that's one of the
Very,
things
very
you want to
quickly.
make sure that you don't overcook it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other way is to use a thermometer and get the internal temperature. For fish, it's 145. So any kind of fish that you want to cook, it's always 145 degrees if you wanted to do it that way.
Just to double check.
Just to double check. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So once we plated it like this, then I just like to, you want to get some of those good sauces in there, the capers and the shallots and the lemon, and just go ahead and drizzle that all over your fish. And that's it, you're ready to go. That's a meal. And I think with this kind of dish, you don't even really need any carbohydrates or any starch. I think with the asparagus, I think you're right there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add a little bit in there because I do work in the diabetes realm. So I'm a diabetes educator. And this is one thing, this would not be enough carbohydrates for those with diabetes.
Right.
So that's where I would say you would need to add a starch in there.
Okay.
So like a side of rice or something similar to that, just to add a little bit more. Now, again, if you're someone who's looking at some of the other kind of health benefits, yeah, this could be a well-rounded dish and that
Right.
could all be what you have. But I live so much in that diabetes world that we would have to add enough because unfortunately we know if we don't have enough carbohydrates at a meal, it could potentially end up causing a high blood sugar later on. So that's something we want to avoid. So kind of looking at more of that balance. One other thing I like about this too is you got the salmon, it's your protein. It's also got some of those good healthy fats, which is essential for meals to help balance it. You got those veggies in there. We added a little bit butter for extra of that fat. So I like all of those things because I'm always looking at fats, proteins, carbs, kind of balance. So I would potentially for those, add a little bit more to that. Just a little side of rice or something can go with this.
Works great.
But it looks beautiful. And as we go through and let this cool a little bit, aren't there different types of salmon that we can kind of look at and kind of, you know, because you're gonna see different types of salmon on the shelf. So what's the difference between them all, and how do we choose we do? You know, which ones we use?
So there's a lot of salmon on the market these days. Some of it, or most of it actually, is farm raised. So you have a lot of different choices and options. There are some steelhead trout out there that actually looks exactly like salmon, and it's in the salmon family. There's also the Alaskan salmon, which comes from the Pacific side. And then there's also the Pacific salmon variety. So there's lots of fresh salmons out there. I think if you live on the west coast of the United States, you're going to get more of that west coast type salmon because you're over there. Here, you know, we're sort of in the middle here in Indiana, so we get a lot of our salmon and things come from the east side. So this is what's available mostly here in our area. But they all pretty much run the same. And I think, I'm not exactly sure nutritionally how they run, but I think they're probably pretty similar.
Pretty similar, but I do know for farm raised versus wild, in the wild, you're going to get a little bit more of those nutrition, omega-3 fatty acids, things like that, versus the farm raised ones. The other thing you have to look at with fish is mercury count, just what's naturally found in the waters too, and what they're fed on. So those are a few things you have to look out for, kind of be aware of. Mercury, not so much. More into my individuals who are pregnant, we'd have to look into that. But nutritionally, it's not too far off. The only thing, again, we live in Indiana. We're right in the middle here. So that's something that, guess what? All of this has to be shipped here, which when it gets shipped here, cost goes up. So look for those sales when they have them, especially during around here. The best sales I often tell my patients is during Lent season because they eat a lot of fish during Lent. So there typically is more sales during that time. So buy them when they're on sale, place them in the freezer so you have them available. Unfortunately, I don't know about you guys, but I can't beat fresh, not frozen kind of fish. Not that I use a lot of frozen fish, but there's something about having it fresh.
Absolutely.
That's also key, but you can use it both ways. So kind of thinking about that cost there as well. So now that we kind of talked about the salmon, talked about this dish a little bit, let's give it a try. I had a chance to cool down a little bit, give this a try so we can all kind of
I can't wait.
Dig in.
grab a little bit. And
Me, I like the flakiness of the salmon. It's one of my favorites. And I love this dish because it has a little bit of acid with it. And it's something that it's just really friendly to the palate.
Absolutely.
that is delicious.
So fresh.
I'm talking about a pot full of flavor.
Yeah. You get the robustness of the capers in there, but like we said, the acidity of that lemon as well.
Yeah.
Really good.
It is very good, especially with the asparagus with it. I like the pairing. It's always a great pairing to me when you have fish.
Yeah.
And what I also like, and one thing about doing the first step, this where you're searing it, you get a little bit of that sear and that flavor there as well, versus just cooking it in the oven. So it adds that extra little flavor, and texture-wise works really well for this dish as well.
Yeah, it almost has a little crust on the outside.
Yep.
So you get a little bit of that texture is right.
Yep.
So wonderful dish. We hope you enjoy this one. We're going to clean up and then we're going to come back and start working with this next one, which is a grouper. So we're going to move on to the next recipe where we're going to be working with grouper. Is that right? So something I personally have not worked much with, but again, nutritionally wise, any type of fish, low saturated fat, always recommend more fish if you can get it in. So I'm excited for this recipe. So where do we start?
So this is actually basically like a Key West kind of dish. Because, you know, grouper is a southern Atlantic fish. So one of the great things about that, well, we can get it year round pretty much anywhere you are. So we're going to make first thing we're going to do is make like a compound butter. So we're going to start with basically just like 1 stick of butter. So that's 4 ounces of butter or half a cup.
Is that softened butter then?
It's soft, yeah. So we let it sit out for a little while just to get sort of soft and malleable so they can move it around. And then we're just going to kind of put everything else in here. So a pinch of salt, kosher salt, a pinch of black pepper, and then a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, teaspoon of fresh chopped garlic, and a teaspoon of, I'm using brown sugar with Splenda
Okay.
in this recipe. And then we're going to incorporate some citrus here. So we're going to start with some lemon and lime. So we're going to get the zest on these. And like Josh explained earlier in the episode when we were using lemon zest, you don't want to go too deep because you don't want to get into that white part, which is bitter. So you just want to take a little bit off the top. And then we're actually going to use the juice as well, but we'll zest the lime first as well.
So we're using the juice of the lime and the lemon together in this.
Yep, right.
Okay.
And the zest of each as well.
Bring in that citrus, which again, you thank Key West for that. So yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
And citrus really just goes so well with any type of fish.
Yeah.
It just, the flavors are fantastic there.
All right, that's good there. And we give him a nice roll.
He's rolling that too to help release some of those juices in there as well. So definitely a key before you would want to cut open to it to get most of that juice into the dish.
Yep. And we just cut them right in half. Limes are always seedless, so you can go ahead and just squeeze that one. So we're going to use only the juice of half of the lime and half of the lemon in this recipe.
Okay. So while you're doing this, what is the advantage of this recipe doing what's called this compound butter kind of?
So what this does is we're actually going to cook this fish inside of some paper, parchment paper in the oven. So what this does is it keeps the butter creamy and it melts as the fish cooks and it mixes with the fish and the juices that come out of the fish and the vegetables, and it sort of makes a sauce inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're kind of poaching this grouper in the back, because once you seal it, as it starts steaming, all the moisture goes up into the top of the paper, and then it falls right back down into the grouper. So it just constantly is kind of mixing all those juices and all those flavors into the fish.
Okay.
Right. So it takes a minute or two to get all this incorporated, but it will go in there, I promise you. You just have to keep mixing it. You could also put this in a mixer if you wanted to.
I was going to say, or a food processor or something like that too. With that.
But with just this little amount, it's kind of hard to use a food processor sometimes, unless you have like a really small one works.
Okay. Or just do it by hand, get a little extra exercise, right?
Exercise. Okay, so the butter is done now. Everything's incorporated in there. So this is a nice citrus butter. So Josh is going to come over now and finish the recipe and show you how to wrap the fish in the paper. Right? Come on, Josh.
Awesome.
All right, so this is one of my favorite ways to cook grouper, and especially grouper, whitefish, things like mahi, grouper, things like that, is actually in the oven. It's a great fish that you can also grill because it is very firm. It's going to hold up to the grill well, but the flavor of this, once we taste it here, you're going to be blown away. And it's so very easy as well.
I like that. And easy. Everybody likes easy,
Everybody
too.
likes easy. So what we've actually done, we've taken some parchment paper, and we cut it in the shape of a heart, so heart healthy here. So we're just going to lay that out. And so we've got some fresh zucchini.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of colors in this. So we're just going to kind of layer those down here in the paper.
You could sub yellow squash here, or you could sub actually even some asparagus.
Okay.
You have it left over, you could sub that here.
Right.
You could kind of use anything you like.
Okay.
So we got about a quarter cup that we're going to look at for the zucchini. And then we're going to lay our red pepper right on top of there as well.
I say, I like these veggies added and the color of them.
So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the fish here first. I'm going to set it on top there, like that. Then we're going to take some of this compound butter.
I say, how much would you add for like a fish this size?
About a good tablespoon.
Yep.
Tablespoon?
Good hearty tablespoon there.
Because that's where fish is naturally low in saturated fats. Now, actually, the butter is going to add some of that, but it's also added. I mean, having those fats in part of the dish is actually a really good thing for you to have.
Yep.
Something that I recommend that we have all the, at every single meal. We went through the 90s where we thought everything had to be, fat-free, low fat.
Yeah.
That was the worst actually thing for us health-wise. You need some of those fats. So knowing that you have a fish that's a little bit lower in the fat compensates for having this extra butter, which is going to add to that kind of sauce and to the flavoring of it.
Absolutely. So we're going to take our shallots, and we're just going to take a good, about a tablespoon, maybe a little more than a tablespoon.
So why shallots versus some of the other types of like onion-based?
You could use both. They're very, very similar. They're both in the same family. Just getting a little bit different flavoring. Just a little bit more mild flavor out of the shallot, I think. And then we're going to go with about 3 or 4 sprigs of thyme.
Oh, I like it.
Fresh thyme right on top there.
Look at that presentation of it before we cook it.
Right, before we cook it, it's absolutely fantastic. It looks beautiful. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold that over. We're going to bring those heart shapes together there. And we're just going to pinch at the corner here. And we're just going to kind of go right down it.
All the way
gonna
around.
Seal it all the way around. And like I said, what this is going to do is it's going to kind of create its own poaching of that fish and of those vegetables. And it's just going to let all those juices and things like that come back up into the paper and then rain right back down on the fish.
And what I like about this is you're using parchment paper, which most of us have at home. I'm pretty sure they sell things like this for you to buy, which you're going to spend more money on, where you could just do this on your own at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
With what you have available.
We'll set that there. That's
Very
gonna go
neat
right
idea.
on the pan, and we'll go ahead and do the second one here really quickly.
The other good thing about this dish is that it's pre-portioned, right?
Yeah.
So when you make one, it's one per person. And you don't have to guess about, how much do I need?
Got it.
I have 8 people coming over for dinner tonight, so you know that you need to make 8 pouches.
I like that idea. And again, kind of going back to the previous one, I love the veggies with it. I love the meat in it. Again, I'm coming from that diabetes world as a diabetes educator. I would add another kind of carb to this. So this is something where could you have, some fresh rolls off to the side?
Sure
or
you could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some,
absolutely.
something like that where, I mean, a lot of people I work with think, oh, I can't have bread. I have diabetes. That's not the case. Something like this, it could be easily added to it to still enjoy those things versus thinking I can't have it.
Right.
Yep. Roasted potatoes would actually go really great with this
I was
dish.
going to say roasted potatoes.
Yep.
Again, another rice or quinoa or any kind of ancient grain. I mean, you can mix it up each time too.
Sure.
So, yeah, good piece of sourdough bread, something that I'm into and working on, would be a great additive to this.
Yep.
Especially, could you do more of the butter and make it a little bit different, compound butter to add different seasonings in with the
Good.
bread?
It's a blank canvas, really.
Yeah.
is. You can add anything to the butter that you like. You can go with some chilies in there to get a little heat. You can go with something that's a little more sweet, like some green onion or some spring onion or scallions, and you can go that route.
Yep.
Fresh herbs, you can do cilantro, and maybe there's lime already in there, but you could do, south of the border kind of thing, and do some cumin in there. Or some toasted cumin seeds would really go good in there.
Yeah.
And you could
Because
go
I kind of like that idea. If you have the butter out, make something for like a sourdough or bread to go with this to kind of pair.
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea, kind of getting some different ideas there for you.
Yep.
For sure.
So this is ready for the oven now. So you're going to bake this nice and hot at about 400 or 425 degrees in your oven. For the first thing that we need, though, is we need to spray it with like olive oil spray or a non-fat cooking spray.
Okay, is that
Just
to keep
on
the paper from burning?
Yes.
From burning there.
All right, guys, we are ready.
So those took right at 25 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you said internal temperature 145 if you would have
145,
want to
yes.
double
Yep.
check that.
Yes.
All right, let's take this out here. We're going to put it right on the cutting board. Scoop it out. Look at all that butter and all the juices in the package. And if you notice, look at it's all been kept so well in there.
It has. I'm looking at it from a cleanup standpoint, especially if you want to host something and you don't want a lot to clean up. Man, there's not much cleanup there.
Right.
Half of it you're throwing away.
There's 2 ways you can go from this point. You could actually just kind of set that in the bowl and kind of open it up and serve. And you can kind of eat right out of the paper. Or if you like it a little more elegant, you can open the paper here and serve it into the bowl.
Okay.
So maybe we could do one of each.
Yeah, I like that
Absolutely.
idea.
All right.
Showing
Absolutely.
different presentations
You
there.
want to set one in the bowl and then we'll open one.
Here we go. Put that right in there.
There you go.
We're going to cut it up. I'm going to hold that there. I don't want it and destroy the visual. So there. And I'll let James take his out here.
Sure.
I was going to say that some be careful as there is hot steam coming
hot
out of
steam,
there.
yeah.
So
Right.
just be aware of that.
So you just kind of want to snip it open and then open up the parchment. Make sure that you don't get any of that steam in the face.
Oh, look at that. Oh, look.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And then this should just come out real nice.
So all your veggies are cooked perfect in there as well.
I say how pretty presentation that is too.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of just take this and
Get the
Oh, yeah.
juices
pour all
there.
that juice
All
right
that
all on
juice
there.
on there. Like we said, it makes its own sauce for you. So.
Yep.
Again, I'm thinking a side of bread with this and that juice in there.
Yep, yep.
I'm liking the pairing and the thought behind it for
Do
a
you want to
future
spread
dish.
that one open?
Absolutely.
There you go. And this would really go nice with some rice, or maybe a jasmine rice or something on the side.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And I'm hoping that watching these episodes today, you feel a little bit more confident and comfortable with cooking the fish. Oftentimes we get told, this looks easy, but it can be easy too. We don't overthink it. You know the temperatures, you know the timings, putting it together, simple ingredients that hopefully you can enjoy this at home as well. So we're going to let this just cool off a little bit and then we'll give it a try here.
Sounds great.
So we let the dish cool a little bit. We're going to give it a try here. It looks wonderful with the green, the red, the white of the fish. So yeah, we'll have to dig in.
All right, let's try. You can see how firm it is. It just
It
kind
is firm compared to
of
like
sticks right together.
what you would get with like a salmon.
Yeah.
It stays nice and firm, which again, grouper is not something that I've ever had experience working with.
So light and fresh, and the grouper is so firm, and it flakes in such large flakes that it's absolutely delicious.
Oh, that's great. I like
Again,
that.
something so simple. The salmon was one pot. This is one pouch. And you can do this with many types of different fish: redfish, cobia, mahi-mahi. Like we said, we did this with grouper today, but it's very universal that you can do this and add those flavors
And
too.
I like that. And the simplicity of it. And it tastes wonderful. It
Yes.
looks wonderful. Smells wonderful. And it's such light and airy too, which I like that. It's not a heavy dish either, especially if you're, hot day or something. I'm thinking light kind of dish here. So wonderful dishes. I hope that, again, all of you are inspired to cook fish and not be afraid to experiment with these different fish dishes. And we hope you enjoyed these recipes this month.